Nuking, millions of damage, and a primary fire that can delete almost any enemy. The Stahlta is a beast of a weapon and is extremely flexible and powerful. It has earned the title of strongest primary, but is that reputation deserved? Today, I'm going to be offering a non-partisan viewpoint for the weapon so you can make an informed decision of if it is right for you. The Stahlta is a fully automatic corpus rifle with innate punch-through and a devastating alt-fire that makes it a favorite for enemies such as acolytes and demolists. The alternative fire, which is what the Stahlta is known for, has two parts. Firstly, there is the main projectile, which does a huge burst of contact damage. Then, after around 1 second, that same projectile will explode, dealing less damage in a moderately large AoE. With no buffs and just primary deadhead, you can expect to see upwards of 1 million damage with the direct alt-fire hit and up to 10 million if enemies are primed first. The alt-fire also has innate radiation and a very high crit chance and crit multiplier. This high crit multiplier incentivizes crit chance buffs to get the most out of it. Its main blueprint is fairly easy to obtain via defeating the Jackal, making it accessible to even newer players. The rest of its blueprints can be found as Rotation C rewards from the Nightmare Granum Void. You can, however, trade for the Granum Void blueprints, but not the main one. This is the build we are going to be using today. This build focuses on maximizing damage output while maintaining flexibility for both the primary and alt-fire modes. Galvanized Aptitude's damage increase is multiplicative with both the primary fire and the alt-fire direct hit. The AoE on the alt-fire, however, does not get affected at all by Aptitude, and so we are using Serration to remedy this. Various crit mods to take full advantage of the high crit multiplier and secondary deadhead for negative recoil and extra headshot damage. We're using Corrosive, as Nourish is the subsume on our Warframe of choice today. If you aren't using Nourish, definitely opt for Viral directly on the weapon instead. You can also use Primed Cryo rounds instead of Infected Clip, then Malignant Force instead of Rime rounds for more overall base damage, though this is a more expensive option. This build has one main weakness, being the cripplingly low fire rate. You can solve this by either using Point Strike instead of Critical Delay, or my personal solution, which is just to use a Warframe that can buff fire rate. My personal recommendations are Gauss, Wisp, and Harrow. Each of these Warframes also offers a subsume slot of your choosing. Gauss offers ease of use on the alt-fire with his 2 negating knockdown of all kinds. Redline also offers the highest fire rate / reload speed buff of these 3 Warframes. Wisp offers some survivability as well as support options through her haste, vitality, and shock modes. Harrow provides critical chance and survivability support, as well as a fire rate and reload speed buff. Of these 3, Gauss is my pick today for his survivability, extreme fire rate and reload speed increase, and his quality of life and versatility. This is the Gauss build we will be using. It's nothing special, however it highlights the most important parts of the choice of Warframe, that being fire rate, reload speed, survivability, and flexibility. I will also be using this Epitaph Prime build to prime the Acolyte, however this build can be improved heavily. With that being said, let's hop into a Steel Path Survival so you can see how this performs in an actual mission. One thing I want to acknowledge before I even start saying anything about this gun, even more than I already have, is that it has a very tightly knit community around it. And so people that like the Stahlta usually love the Stahlta, at least in my experience. I've never met somebody who talks or speaks highly of the Stahlta and doesn't really like it. I think there's some clouded judgment, and that's what led me to make this video in the first place. For what it's worth, after I picked up this weapon, I didn't actually use it that much, and that was not on purpose, but it did give me a good opportunity to make this video. Because if you look up Stahlta, pretty much everything that you see is just that this is the strongest gun in Warframe, it's broken, you should have it, and then, I'm not gonna lie to you, when I first got it, I was a little disappointed. When I got weapons like the Torrid and the Dual Toxicist, right, I was blown away by how good they were without any buffs. But this weapon, unfortunately, does kind of need those buffs to be good, and that brings me to my first criticism of the Stahlta, is that it needs buffs. Alone, even with fire rate and all that stuff, it performs alright. Now, is it better than most primary weapons? Yes, but most primary weapons also aren't the best, especially if they're non-incarnon. But with that being said, it's still a very solid rifle outside of that. Alright, we got Hunted, which is fine. I kind of want to just nuke the entire thing of them since they don't have any armor. Yeah, let's break the shield, and there you go. So with buffs, honestly, it's really good, but if I were to use another weapon, and just to throw it out there as an example, with a very similar weapon, let's say the Tetra, right, which is also directly compared to the Stahlta because of how similar they are, it would perform pretty much the same. And that's not to take away from the value of the Stahlta, but more to show that there are other options. Some other great options other than the Stahlta are the Queller and the Aeolac, but keep in mind that these weapons don't actually have an AoE on their alt fire. It's just a really, really strong charged attack. Another thing you might be worried about is ammo economy, but in my experience, it's been totally fine. That's also likely because I've been testing the Stahlta in very high enemy density missions like Steel Path Survival, so in Steel Path Mod. However, if you're playing like a disruption mission, right, you may want to slot Vigilante supplies on your Exilus slot, and then you'll also get a chance at red crits, but also you'll have an easier time getting ammo. Also, this weapon kind of demands prime sure-footed. I mean, I guess I wouldn't really say demands it, but if you're going to use the AoE or you're going to use the build I'm showcasing in this video, you know, the flexible one where you can use both firing modes, you're going to want prime sure-footed, or at the very least use Gauss or something like that, because it's so much more enjoyable this way. Like, you can go up, you can shoot at the floor, and then, you know, not get knocked back. And I feel like a lot of the people that say that, you know, this is the best gun in Warframe, maybe just coming from a slightly clouded judgment, having things that most new players don't have. I feel like a lot of the times when people call the Stahlta the best weapon in the game, they are marketing that towards more easily influenced players, so newer players. And so it's a very, not necessarily like dangerous thing, I mean, it's a video game, but it is kind of, I would feel like let's say for example I was a new player, and I saw this video that's saying the Stahlta was the best weapon, and I go get it, but I don't have, like, you know, maxed out galvanized mods, I don't have primed mods, I don't have insane warframes. Well, maybe you have like Gauss Prime and stuff, but you don't really have the same mods for it to make it as strong, and maybe you don't have Nourish as a Helminth yet. All these things, and then you try the Stahlta, and it's like, this is worse than my Torrid and Dual Tox, and most things are worse than Torrid and Dual Tox, but it was put into their heads that the weapon was the best, and therefore they're disappointed. The last thing that I want is people walking away from my build videos disappointed. And that's the whole point of this video, is to help maybe newer players make a more informed decision. By the way, the Acolyte's going to roll around in a second. By the way, another great Warframe that you can use with the Stahlta, if you want like a ludicrous amounts of damage, is Mirage. It might be a little bit obvious, but I can guarantee you that with the right buffs, you can hit damage cap with the alt fire on this weapon. Also, there's the Acolyte. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the Epitaph to just freeze him, or at least I kind of keep him in place. Hopefully do that before the Malice bubble kills me. Oh, I missed, but there you go. So you saw how much damage the radial attack did. And so if the first hit landed, it would have one-tapped the Acolyte. And so just to wrap things up, the Stahlta is a fantastic rifle. It's super strong, and you should get it if you're bored of incarnon weapons. But I think going into it, having the expectation of it being the best weapon in the game is going to sabotage you a bit, and I think that you're better off thinking of it more like a second option or a choice that you can have if you're bored. I hope you guys enjoyed this new style of video. If you did, please make sure to like. It tells me that you really did enjoy it, and it motivates me to keep making videos. And if you're new around here, subscribe. I have a ton of content planned for the future, so make sure you stick around for that, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.